Welcome to EntrePods, the most cutting-edge podcast for entrepreneurs and investors. We answer the hottest question today. So now what? We are radically civilized with a focus on durable solutions that make the most positive impacts in your business, financial, personal, and community life. The world right now belongs to entrepreneurs. Today, we'll show you through our expert conversations that matter, the limitless opportunities you have right now to live the life of your dreams. The best version of you and your business starts now. Welcome to EntrePods.
Hey guys, welcome to EntrePods. I'm your host, Jennifer Glegerich, and today we have another amazing guest. I'm really excited about our guest today. They started out as a Microsoft senior engineer, and then he turned to be a real estate agent, and now he's an inside sales guru. He has one of the largest sales teams for real estate agents in North America, and 65 agents that make about 50,000 outbound dials a day, which is just absolutely amazing. They set about 100 appointments with buyers and sellers every single day, mostly from Facebook. So if you're a real estate agent or if you are a real estate investor, you're really going to want to pay notice to this because this is his specialty. So everybody, I want you to give a big welcome to Gustavo Munoz Castro, and he is with PowerISA.com. Welcome, Gustavo. How are you?
Hey, Jennifer. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So you started out with Microsoft. So now Microsoft is huge in the news right now. So are you glad that you left?
Well, it's kind of a funny story because when I left Microsoft, this was back in 2013, it was not looking good, right? It was a big transition coming for the company. The CEO had just left. And, coming from the corporate world, I knew that, okay, for the next 2 to 3 years, Microsoft have to find itself, right? We have to kind of reorg, kind of remove the old, out with the old, in with the new. And I decided, hey, I want to sit this one out. I'm not going to want to go through a couple of years of corporate reorganization, which turned out really well for Microsoft, by the way. Microsoft was back on top in a lot of ways. And I said, but my wife had become a real estate agent a couple of years before. And I had gotten licensed in 2010. So this was 2013, right? So she had gotten licensed in 2008.
So you got licensed right during the crash in real 100%. Estate.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's different. Most people were like, oh my gosh, aren't we glad we're not agents right now? And y'all rushed to go become agents.
Yeah, 100%. And, it was not easy. My wife got licensed in 2008.
Oh, man, that's hard.
She was the rookie of the year for her whole office with like 6 or 7 transactions, right? So it was like, it was that kind of a situation. But again, I had a full-time job. I had benefits. So we did well as a family.
Right.
And we were able to do real estate on the side. So it wasn't like some kind of superhero story, but we were in the right place at the right time. And we were able to get access to investment property, stuff we would have never seen had we not been licensed at that time and were active in the market at that time. So it was a really crazy time to be in the marketplace. And I saw my wife. He was a solo agent in 2008. She started building a team. This was a few years later, 2013. Things had changed. Things that, it was no longer doom and gloom. The market was on a tear for the last year. So 2012, 2013 in our area, which is the Seattle area, was like just going crazy, right? In that time frame. You hadn't seen this in years, like a really, really hot seller's market that is still going on, by the way.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, I'm going to help my wife. I'm going to take a 6-month break to help my wife build her real estate team, right? And I never went back. It's been 7 years now since I left Microsoft. Best decision I ever made. It just matched my skill set much better. I made it all the way to senior engineer in Microsoft. I don't know if I would have made it much further than that, to be really honest with you. I'm much better at this than I was at software.
Well, that's really interesting. And that's an interesting story of how you were able to do it. And now you're in Seattle, and I was talking to some investors, and they were helping lots of buyers try to snap up things because there is inside Seattle, prices are actually going down, but then there's this commute area, kind of like Kansas City, the 15 to 30 minute outside area, all of a sudden that property is exploding, people wanting to literally stream out. They don't want those problems anymore. I just saw this really great show on TV of like a Teavana. They were these tea shop owners and they had 3 locations, and it was like their dream. And then it started getting worse as far as like the homeless problems, and they started getting people shooting up outside their tea shop, and it was like this nice area, and they said it just went downhill so quick. We couldn't catch our breath as small business owners. Their own teenage daughter was working there, and a homeless guy came in and attacked her, and she was in the hospital for 2 days. And they said, but we still believe in this neighborhood. We kept on thinking this is temporary. It'll get better. We were in one of the nicer, areas, our rent was this, and it's just gotten out of control, and they've closed all their shops. And they were saying, between COVID and everything else, they just can't do it anymore. And they were wanting the government to like help businesses like that. So I just thought, wow, that's really interesting. But guess what? They might have closed that shop, but they were looking at locations outside the circle. So they were talking about that.
Yeah, and COVID has been a huge a part of a big shift that we're seeing, because the major employers in this area are Microsoft, Amazon, Redfin. A lot of big tech companies are based around the area, and they've all gone remote. And a lot of them are saying, we're going to be remote either for the foreseeable future or at least a year down the line, right? No one's going back to the office. And these are areas with massive office complexes, right? I used to work in building 35, 34 for Microsoft. Wow. And there was another 30, 40 buildings, around me, right? So these are massive. No one's there, right? So a lot of people are asking the question, a lot of these campuses, we're even in downtown Seattle. Microsoft had a bunch of campuses. Amazon has their headquarters. Well, they had their headquarters. I think they're planning on making a move there.
They need to bring manufacturing back and repurpose all those buildings for manufacturing, for everything from Clorox wipes. In my area, and I'm here in Galveston, Texas, you can't find them. They're literally not in any single store. There's no wipes still on the shelf. So obviously our supply chains are very broken. There are noticeable areas where our supply was not U.S. made, and you can tell now. It's 6 months in, and you still can't get a wipe. So that is a place like, why can't a manufacturing company get one of these buildings? We have a homeless crisis there. There's ways to repurpose it. I've been building 100%. Businesses for 25 years. The last 10 years, my specialty before I became an asset protection specialist was building businesses remotely and using US-based teleprofessionals. I started working with doctors a lot, and I just kept on meeting top talent, but they survived a wreck that would have killed them 5 years earlier. They had someone who had a stroke they had to be a caretaker of. They wanted to leave the corporate world to leave their kids, but they had these incredible degrees, these incredible experience, and I became an expert on placing them. And then I started doing massive global scale-ups with US-based talent. My biggest one, I took a company from 3 people to 221 people in 21 countries in 18 months using remote-based US workers. But you manage people very differently. You actually have to be a real good people person. And HR, as we know it, doesn't work whatsoever. Neither does management. Doesn't work this way. You have to relearn it. It's a very different skill set. And I've been doing it for a while, and I'm kind of chuckling because so many people are struggling. And I'm like, because the old ways don't work in the new world. You have to love people a lot more.
That's crazy. You got kind of like a preview, because what you were doing before in your previous role, everyone's doing that now to some extent, right?
To some extent.
Everyone is using remote work, or at least partially, or a lot of the examples that I said in Seattle, it's 100% remote, right? And it's going to be that way for 6 months more, 12 months more.
I think it should be that forever. I think it should be that forever.
I don't think people are going to go back as easily as people assume. And the talent, the amount of talent available for that industry, high tech, is so scarce that they can't just tell everyone, hey, we're going back, or you're out of here. Like, okay, what do we do now, right? So it's going to be a big shift. I think it's going to be a huge shift.
Like even my company here with Leafy, we're all remote because that's my specialty. But the great thing about it for me as a business owner is that I am not limited geographically whatsoever with my talent. I can have the best talent in the US. When companies start to realize this, and then realize the benefits for it, it's going to be a different world. You can repurpose all those buildings. We can solve a lot of our crisis with shelter and manufacturing and buildings. And there are so many things that we can do with that are better for the environment. It's not going to clog the roadways. Imagine, I've been saying this for a decade. Why are we adding to carbon emissions if you can stay home and do it? It's better for the small towns. So what happens when you bring back that talent into neighborhoods, then you don't have these environmental eyesore, terrible for the environment city centers. You start to have people moving to small towns. They give money to small businesses. Then you start to really build a middle class, which is just much better for everyone. It makes it easier
100%.
for lower income people to be able to move up and to be able to get a local job that can sustain them for 20, 30 years. You get to go back to the days of where I have a job for 20 years. When you have these global, what I like to think of slave factories, I hate to say it, but they don't think of it the same way. Don't think about how I can revitalize it. Some of them start out that way, but they don't end up that way. And so we can really change things and change the global consciousness, but it's painful. We're all going
100%.
through so much pain right now.
Dealing with change.
Yeah.
Change is hard. Everyone's saying, hey, let's change. Change is difficult. Change is resistance. Change is hard. Like you said, a lot of these, supply chains and manufacturing that was overseas, people are saying, hey, maybe that's not the best idea ever, right? Again, I think we're in the middle of kind of rethinking that, as a country and going, what is a better way to do that? And I think people are saying, hey, I used to commute in Seattle. People had commutes 2 hours, 90 minutes,
Same
60
here
to
in
20
Texas.
minutes, 100 minutes each way. And people are thinking, if they don't have to do that and they haven't done that for the better part of a year, let's say, they're going to go, well, why should I do that? Right? Is that the best way to do it? If I can live in, a friend of mine lives in, was it Katy, Texas? That's outside of Houston.
Oh, yeah. That's not far.
Yeah. That is a brutal commute. That's not easy, right?
It's the worst highway. I-10 going from Katy to downtown. It's one of the largest highway, if not the largest highway in the world, and that it's like 8 to 10 lanes on both sides, and it is a parking lot. If you've never
100%.
been on the Katy freeway during rush hour, you don't know pain. And the fact that all these people, I just talked to a client of mine, and he was very busy. They have kids and his wife, and they're in California. And I said, so how's it going? He goes, the business, not so great because of COVID. He said, but I'm going to tell you, my wife, me, and the kids are happier now than we have been. I feel like I know my kids more of who they are. And I wouldn't give up this time in a million years. And he goes, we were so scheduled. And I am, he is a very successful client of mine, successful in his life. And he said, but I didn't feel successful. I feel more successful now. And I don't want to go back to the way it was. I've had to reprioritize things into what is actually important. I think there's so many people making that shift, even people who are really struggling financially right now. Yeah. They're also making the shift. It's painful though. It's like giving birth. We're going to have something new and better, but we have to keep on pushing for new and better in positive ways, not negative.
100%. I agree with you, Jennifer. I think a lot of it starts with your mindset. You can see everything that's happening right now and just, this is the worst time ever. Or you can look at the same set of activities, the same set of circumstances and see, okay, this is happening. This is 99.9% of this is outside of my control. How can I react? How can I find opportunities? How can I, like you said, teleprofessionals are going to become a huge part of the economy for the foreseeable future. A lot of people are going to prefer that way to work. A lot of people this is what we saw as COVID started, are spending more time on social media, are spending more time on their phones. They're more time at home. Behavior is shifting, right? Yeah. So, everyone you have a choice to make. You can do what you've always done and suffer the consequences, or you can shift the way consumers are shifting, homeowners are shifting, attention is shifting, and kind of follow them, right? And be where they are.
And that's where you come in, right? So I want to segue into why I actually wanted to talk to you. We took a toll to the audience. Leafy knows this, right? So we get to know people in these great ways, right? But so let's talk about this social media and something that most realtors and real estate investors, they're like, oh, Facebook, okay. And they have, everybody I think has a love-hate relationship with
100%.
Facebook, but you're utilizing this, you're making this shift, and during this time, you're quite successful. So let's talk a little bit about how real estate agents and real estate investors, hell, entrepreneurs in general, can get massive ROI from Facebook leads. They change the algorithm so much. To me, it's so confusing. So talk to me a little bit about how you're able to help us.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a little bit of a step back and go, when you're talking about Facebook, there's a lot of things, Facebook's a massive platform, right?
It is.
If you're talking about a real estate agent, a business owner, like a retail business or retail real estate person, one of the things you should look around about Facebook is it has an organic reach. There's things you can do on Facebook that have nothing to do with paid ads as a business owner. You want to get people's attention. You want to put out content. If people like and engage with your content, Facebook will reward you with more views, with more interaction, and people can get to know you. I do this a lot for my business. I go live on Facebook. I have a Facebook group. I'm a member, a partner with a lot of other Facebook groups. Every single business owner, retail real estate person, retail business owner, online business owner should do something like that. You have to have a foot in the organic Facebook space. That is going to provide the best ROI imaginable because it just costs you your time. Your time, you're putting out content, you're adding value. And I'll give you a couple quick examples. For me, I'm in the lead conversion, the real estate business, but I talk to people. I have a Facebook group with 2,000 people, and I'm there talking about Facebook marketing, converting online leads, converting leads for real estate, for loan officers, for investors, for anyone under the sun, because I want to add massive value and bring attention to my business, right? I'm on a podcast like you with Leafy because you have an audience that's talking about business, about real estate, and I'm here to add massive value to them. So just to create awareness and go, hey, Gus is an interesting guy. Let me see what more he's talking about. But it starts with value. It starts with value. If you add value to the audience will trust you, they'll get to know you, and they'll follow you, right? So Facebook is another way to do that. A newsletter is another way. Podcast is another way. Facebook is another way everyone should use to do that. There's another aspect of Facebook, which is interesting, which is the paid ads aspect of it, right? Yeah. Pay for play, pay for performance. That's a big part of what Facebook does. One of the restrictions Facebook has is for real estate, for political ads, for employment ads. They said, okay, you cannot use our super massive superpowers on targeting people because, yeah, people can do bad things with that, right? And in the case of the US, it can violate federal law pretty easily. And this is a couple of years ago where you could do all kinds of targeting, location targeting, demographic targeting, and people would purposely or unpurposely, to be really honest with you, violate the Fair Housing Act. It was really easy to do. So Facebook put a lot of restrictions on that. They said, okay, Gus, if you want to run a real estate ad, it has to be on a 15-mile radius. Even if you only want to target, let's say downtown Galveston or the Katy suburb, you're going to run a 15-mile radius ad no matter what. That's the first restriction. The next one they did is very little demographic targeting. I used to be able to say, I'm Hispanic, right? I wanted to run an ad in Spanish targeting, hey, I want to target Hispanic families living in Southern Houston or Southern Texas because I'm the number one Hispanic agent in that area. It's my sphere. Can't do that anymore, right? I cannot target just Hispanic families, right?
We had this talk just FYI, I was on Bigger Pockets, and there was an LGBT real estate agent and an investor who only wanted to advertise that. Like she wanted to put the rainbow flags outside of a showing and everything else. And there were a lot of lawyers and other people who said, yeah, you really can't do that because that's considered discriminatory. Imagine if you flip that. Always think about your idea and flip it to other demographics and see what they would say. You have to make it as open and inclusive to everyone as possible.
100%.
And so they didn't think about that. They're just thinking, well, this is my group. I want to be able to do that.
100%.
But you can't do it in a way that may feel to other people because now we're so hypersensitive about everything.
100%.
Or to cause a lawsuit. I mean, the last thing you want to do is to try to put out good, but you don't get some advice on that and you end up, tanking your whole business and they take everything. Right?
100%. And we're in an environment that, yes, do you think you'll get called out for that? Absolutely you will, 100%. Yeah. And Facebook got called out on that in a massive way, right? The government intervention, hearings, and just a lot of scrutiny. So Facebook said they were making money, an amazing amount of money, and they still put this restriction in place. And if you don't follow this restriction, they will ban you for life. This is not, do not mess around with these restrictions. If you do not obey them, it's optional. You can select, oh, I'm not a real estate ad, and run a real estate ad on the side. If they catch you, they will ban you permanently from Facebook. So they're not messing around. It's a serious thing. However, there are things you can still do. These ads are still, I mean, our clients run these ads every single day. They're still useful. They're still successful. The way that they're able to get massive value from them, you can no longer target the Katy suburb. But what you can use the Facebook algorithm to your advantage. You can call out, hey, Katy homeowners, this ad is for you. So the algorithm does its best to match it up with people that are interested in the Katy suburb, like the Katy area, go to Katy schools, go to Katy stores. The algorithm will try and do its best to match it, not by excluding anyone, but by actually including people there. It does not exclude people by their income, by their race, ethnicity, national origin. It doesn't do that, but it will find people in Katy, which is ultimately what you want, right? So
I did not know
the algorithm,
that. Okay.
you can actually give the algorithm kind of tips and tricks to help you find the people that you want. For example, for investors, this is super key for investors. I know a lot of investors listen to this podcast. Investors, the way that a really successful investment clients target motivated sellers. Right now, it's the name of the game. Whoever has the listing, the motivated seller has the market, right? It's kind of that kind of a market right now. The way that you can find them on Facebook is have an ad copy that says, calls out every single kind of person you're looking for. Hey, are you struggling with unemployment, lost a job, some kind of an illness, a divorce, a probate, someone passed away. So I'm seeing these Facebook ads that are like listing out every terrible reason you might want to sell a home fast. You need cash right away. And believe it or not, this is scary true. The algorithm can match them to people that are struggling with money, having a terrible life event happen. It is that good. It is that good, and it will find people that are interested.
That is scary because how do they know that?
the Facebook, it has an amazing way. It's not 100% accurate, but it is scary accurate.
Deletes my Facebook right now. Delete. I'm sorry.
100%.
No, you want us
right?
to have it. Yeah, just have the Facebook for your business and don't talk about anything.
Yeah, and they put the ad copy out there. They attract people that are interested in that quick cash offer, close within 7 days, whatever the offer is, right? And depending on what state you're in, maybe you can't put a bunch of details in there. Hey, money fast, I'll give you some options. And you might do lease option. There's a bunch of ways investors can purchase homes. Right, you might have a bunch of different options that you want to offer them. Hey, we have alternatives for you if you need money right away, whatever it happens to be. So that is a great way to track people on Facebook. The Facebook for real estate is alive and well. It hasn't stopped. If anything, we're running even more ads, I think, this year than last year, than 6 months ago.
Okay, but what do you say to the people who are like, yeah, I tried it, but it was nothing but tire kickers. I spent so much time and effort and I couldn't get anyone to actually buy. I'm getting a lot of clicks, but I'm not getting anyone that's actually interested. So do you have any tips for someone on how to actually convert?
100%. So that is, and I can tell you know about this, you've heard this, because that's the number one complaint.
I've had this, which 100%. I thought, man, this is taking all my time. And I've actually moved a lot more to LinkedIn because I've had more issues with Facebook with just getting noise and not actually I feel with LinkedIn, I'm actually able to talk to more people, but I would like to use Facebook. I'm just burnt out a little bit on it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of us, when I first started advertising on Facebook, this was back a while ago, by 2014, 2015, the tool hadn't matured yet. It was definitely a different version of the product. The targeting wasn't there. And again, I wasn't that good at it either, right? And I would put out information, I would put out ads, hey, you want to buy or sell a home, work with me. And there was a lot of issues with that, right? So Facebook is great at getting people's attention. It gets people's attention, which is the number one thing we as business owners want. So it's great at that, right? What we do with that attention is 100% on us, right? Because that's all Facebook promises. Hey, people spend 3 hours a day looking at this on their phone. That's what they promise for you. So and when you approach it from that perspective, the consumer's on there. The consumer's not on Facebook looking for homes. That's another thing. I mean, we got to be conscious about that. Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, these other websites, yes, Realtor.com, they're on there looking for homes. And those leads have a different price point, right? They are priced accordingly for people that are actively looking for homes. Right. The challenge with Facebook is, can you come up with a creative Can you come up with an offer? Can you come up with something that entices the homeowner that is thinking of buying a home, right? Is there something you can offer them that's valuable? It's only valuable to people that want to buy homes. It's only valuable for them, right? And it might be, and that's where you got to get creative about it, right? You need to have something that's interesting, something that stands out. What you don't want to do is like do what I did in 2014, have a picture of me and my wife and say, hey, we can help you buy a home. Like, well, that's great. I don't care as a consumer. I couldn't care less that Gus and Mary are
You just
selling
look
homes.
right over that. You look right over that. It's not catchy. But how do you find something that is catchy? It's so hard because some of the things that are catchy are things that have nothing to do with anything. It's just like a grotesque picture of like that flower that has the holes in it. And then you're like, ooh, what's that? And you click it. And it
catches your attention. Well, I'm not even saying get that creative, get that out of the box. I'm not even saying that.
That's crazy to me.
I'm saying that the number one thing consumers that are interested in buying a home right now, the number one thing that they want to look at is homes. They want to see available homes, right? Because inventory is very tight. If you have a list of homes, hey, I can offer you a list of homes under a certain price point. Hey, I can offer you, I have a list of available properties right now with a pool, with a basement. I don't know if you have basements in Galveston, maybe you don't, but there might be something there that people are interested in. Offer them a list of homes. That's a very basic offer. People will click on that. If they're interested in properties, they will want to look at that. But I'm going to be super honest with you, Jennifer. That person clicking on that ad, they might be 12 months out from buying a home. That is 100% accurate. I think an average, what we see is, I think probably more than half of these leads are 6 to 12 months out.
Yeah, your follow-up game has to be strong.
It absolutely has to be strong.
You just need to queue it up. Like I would
100%.
get your automations. That's one thing you've got to do is get your automations. And I need to be better on that. You need to have someone help you write the great automations and have those emails coming out. But that's hard to do. That's why
100%. And let me share some numbers with you. Yeah, we do like a lot of follow-up calls. We do the follow-up sequences because this is a long game. But let me share some numbers with you. What if we generate 100 Facebook leads? Let's say this month, 100 Facebook leads. We know that 10% of those leads, maybe 15% of those leads, want to talk to somebody right now. They want to talk to Jennifer. They want to talk to Gus. They want to talk to Mary. And they want to hear about whatever special secret sauce we have to talk to them about to get them into a home. We have to have a hook. We have to have something valuable for them. If we have something valuable, 10, 15% of them want to talk to you right away. And those are not going to be 12 months out. Those people are going to be 6 months or below.
Yeah, but you need 100. That's a lot.
So that's the thing. And that's the thing where a lot of people, they get frustrated. They give up a little bit too early. Getting to that 100 might take you 6 months, and that's way too long. You want to find a way to get you to 100 within 30 days. And learning how to run these ads is step number one. That is step number one, because, in most markets, you can generate 100 Facebook leads for, I think on the high end, maybe $500 in the higher priced markets. But in the smaller cities, the Galvestons of the world, and nothing on Galveston, it's a smaller city, the other areas, it can be a couple $100. You can generate 100 Facebook leads in total. And here's even better. Let's say you don't want 100 Facebook leads. You want to put some friction in there. You want to put some qualifying questions like, hey, what's your timeline to get into your new home? Hey, what's your credit score range? You don't never want to ask them for the credit score. What's the range of your credit score? Hey, have you been, at your current job at least a year? You want to put some questions in there. You're not going to get 100 leads. You might get 30 leads. But guess what? Those 30 leads want to buy a home within 12 months, and they're employed and they have a credit score of at least 630. Yeah, that's a much more valuable list of leads, even though it costs you the same. It's going to cost you the same as 100 leads. You're only going to get 30. But it's a pretty valuable list of 30 people right there. So I'd say don't always go for quantity, but I'm talking about no friction. I'm talking about 100 people from Facebook that are willing to click on that.
Okay. But how do you get friction? So explain that. Like, how do you ask questions with an ad? Just explain that to the people who don't know.
And that's a great question. So there's a couple ways to do it. The easy way, the fastest way, the way that I recommend is doing it within the ad itself. And in Facebook, and this is where it gets complicated because the Facebook Ads Manager is a beast of a thing, right? It's a pretty complicated piece of software. So there's a lot of, I would say YouTube is your friend, Google is your friend. Whenever you get stuck, I guarantee you there's a YouTube video that's going to get you unstuck. There are Facebook groups like mine. You should jump on mine, Jen. ask a question within my Facebook group. People are willing to get you unstuck and move you into the next step. Like, for example, it's a great question. Hey, how do I add a question on timeline into my Facebook ad? There is a section when you create the ad that if you don't touch it, it never opens up. But if you click on questions, it says, well, what question do you want to ask? Because otherwise, I don't know if people have clicked on a Facebook ad recently. There's a thing called instant responses. You click on the more information button and you don't see anything. The ad, it already grabbed your information and sent it to me. I got it. Thank you, Jen. You didn't even have to type in your phone number, email, or your name. Instant answer, instant response, right? It sends all your information. Unless I say, hey, why don't you ask Jennifer if she's thinking of buying a home within the next year or so? If she's currently employed, if she is already working with a real estate agent. I'd love to know that, right? Are you currently working with an agent, right? Are you pre-approved? There's all these different questions you can ask to further qualify these leads. Number one, if they're even willing to respond, they are a more qualified lead. If they answer the right question, even more qualified lead, right? At the end of the ad, you can even put a link on there, Jennifer, and says, hey, why wait? Why don't you book a time with me right now? I book a time in my calendar, boom. I mean, not everyone's going to do that, to be really honest with you. It's going to be, if we can convert 10 to 15% to appointment, maybe you can get 1% to self-book. They'll self-book an appointment. But man, I want to talk, if they're willing to click through that and schedule a time with me just off a Facebook ad, I really want to talk to that person. They're very motivated. It's demonstrating motivation, right? So all these things can be done within Facebook. The other way to do it is have an outside website, like a landing page that has a questionnaire on there. There's a bunch of million ways to do that. And that's another thing people can look into, but it's called like a long form questionnaire, a long form survey, and you can have them fill that out. I have clients that we work with that have 20 questions on that questionnaire that go through some of these are mortgage leads, some of these are motivated seller, investor leads. What condition is the home in? Have you remodeled anything? They ask the condition question 5 different ways. Have you remodeled the kitchen in the last 5 years? Have you fixed the roof in the last 5 years? What's the general condition of your home? Are there any lien holders? All these things, right? Because they want really, really, really qualified leads. And it might, instead of having 100, they're going to have 15. But man, are those high quality 15
Anyone
leads.
who's going to go through 20 questions in our Insta society, they are really looking for some information.
100%. So it's always a trade-off.
4 a.m. in their
and they do come at all random times, by the way. That's why automation is so important. You have to respond to them even if it's 4 a.m. Hey, this is Gus with the team. I'm not here right now, but hey, I'd love to talk to you tomorrow morning. When's a good time to call you? That's what we say at night. Like, boom. I'm not going to call them at 4 a.m. I'm not, but we're going to respond. It's different, right? We're responding at 4 a.m. To their inquiry.
So anyway, guys, we're already at the end of the show. It's like went so quickly, and I just looked at the time and I went, So we're talking to Gustavo Munoz Castro, and he is with PowerISA.com. And as always, we're going to have all the links on the bottom. We'll have the links to his Facebook group. We'll have the links for his pay-per-lead service, because if you're listening to any of this and you're like, I'm overwhelmed. Well, guess what? That's fine. He can do it all for you. And that's getspeedtolead.com. Real catchy. Getspeedtolead.com. And thank you, EntrePods listeners, for being with us today for that wonderful guest. And remember, you just need to go to EntrePods.com. You can find us on every bit of social media you can think of by just putting in at EntrePods, EntrePods, and you can listen to us on your favorite listening platform. We're everywhere. If you have any questions, you can just email info@entrepods.com, or you can go and become a member on our membership site. So you're going to hear more about that here in a little bit. And thank you, and have a wonderful week. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and please go give us a 5-star rating on your preferred listening platform if you enjoyed the show. This helps us reach more listeners like you and keep booking amazing guests. If you'd like to join our growing EntrePods community, want our social media links to like or share, or inquire about one-on-one strategy calls with our host Jennifer, please visit EntrePods.com. See you next time, and here's to you and your best life imaginable.